All right, and we are up. Hello, everybody. It is the Freelancer back with Jake for the Dark Council podcast.
Yo!
So, nowhere on one of our weird later starts, but that's fine. We plan these to be starting anywhere between 12 to 1 p.m. anyway. 12 to 2, rather. So,
Well, to your time.
well, yeah, my time. So, last week we had gone over our first of the warlords, having started a whole little trend of talking about those people. Imperial warlords of the expanded universe era.
Those people, you made it sound like it was like a dirty thing. Oh, those warlords over there. Ugh.
I mean, when you consider how even the Empire treats the warlords, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the warlords aren't like grand moffs. Like,
Well, I mean, that's the weird part. Most of them are actually like grand moffs or officers who ran off to do their own thing.
yeah, I'm gonna make my own empire with blackjack and hookers.
It's
Wait,
literally...
how come my empire's failing?
Well, one of those empires that failed we'll be talking about today, as many warlords before and after. Our topic of today, after covering the crazy director Isard, we will be discussing Warlord Zsinj today.
I think you meant hottie director Ice Hard.
Shush. Shut up. Your wordy hole, shutty.
Can't stop me. I'll thirst over who I want.
Well, today is Warlord Zsinj. And I also, before we even talk about old Zinji boy, actually have a special...
Pegasus.
No, I have a little fun announcement that'll be coming up at the end of the session here. End of the session here that I think would be fun as a more regular idea. So we'll get to that when we wrap up, as well as what our next topic will be. But Warlord Zsinj today. Summary. Zsinj was a rather comic book style villain, serving the Galactic Empire following the Republic's reformation into the Empire, and following after his mother's footsteps as a brilliant tactician. He was able to quell an uprising of Night Sisters on the planet Dathomir, and was given command of the Quelli Oversector, and the command of an Executor Super Star Destroyer, named after his first command craft, the Iron Fist. Zsinj was a High Admiral and Grand Moff, and was among the first warlords who broke away from the Empire following the death of Palpatine. He led many campaigns on not only those of the Empire and Isard's command, but also led many more against the New Republic after they took the core worlds. By normal standards, you would assume Zsinj to be a mildly standard Imperial official, given his status, his genuine skill, and accomplishments, even in spite of his untimely demise. We'll learn today how he accomplished so much and was someone the New Republic had to seek outside help to bring down.
Oof.
So, yeah, I'm actually going through the last book that actually covers Zsinj in some detail. I've been doing the Courtship of Princess Leia audiobook, which is supposed to be where Zsinj actually dies.
Oh.
So we'll get to talk a bit about the events of that while we're all more towards the end. But for Zsinj's early life, Zsinj was born sometime before the Clone Wars, around 30 BBY, and was born to a Fondorian male and a Chandrillan woman, while his father was not anyone of note, and per his family tradition, Zsinj didn't actually have a first name. Apparently, that's a Fondorian tradition. Usually you don't adopt don't have a first name. You are referred commonly by your family name. Didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah. But Zinj's mother, on the other hand, One Captain Marissa Zsinj was a truly devastating commander in not only the Republic's outer sector security forces, but also one of the more brilliant and respected naval tacticians of the Clone Wars. She was later given command of a Venator-class Star Destroyer named the Retaliation, and was also earned the name the Ace of the Space Lanes. She would see her son become a cadet in the Naval Academy on Prep Scout 4, where he would be assumed and suggested to take on a status of career in support services, due to how Zsinj never really stood out amongst his other cadets. But despite the pressure and his seemingly dull personality, he still managed to graduate in the top 3 of his class from the Academy.
Oh, okay, teacher's pet, I see.
Wasn't even really that. He did actually prove himself genuinely. Like, he wasn't just favorited. They were trying to urge him off the, like, military command career path. They wanted him to go into, like, support services or whatever. They wanted him on, like, a support career path.
Okay.
But he actually went through and proved that he had the skill, at least, to prove himself in the top 3 of the command staff of the Academy. Of his graduating class. So, and following his graduation from the Academy, he was soon able to find himself serving the Empire proper. And by the time he had graduated, he would go on to serve as a naval officer in the Empire, as the Republic had already gone its reformation by the time he'd see military service. A task his mother, however, would not join him on. When she was told to bring her Venator in for decommissioning, Zsinj volunteered to bring in the ship, but she denied them this and denounced the Empire, taking her ship and crew and becoming a pirate warlord. And soon she would have to come face to face with the fact her son would prove to be superior to her in every way. Zsinj had been given command of an old Victory class Star Destroyer named Iron Fist, which was one of the oldest ships of its class. Given the task of commanding Iron Fist to bring down his own mother, he was sent off to undergo a lengthy campaign where he would ultimately find and kill his mother and destroy her ship. This landmark would serve to shot push Zsinj's career forward into the stars, and he would be given the title of the Warlord of the Empire.
Bum, bum, bum.
This was only the first of the portly man's great accomplishments and proof of his skills. As he began to see wider service in the Empire, Zsinj had begun to perform very well in the Empire's rule, and was able to take on a lot of interest for actually refining the tactics the Empire used. While not the strategic genius of Thrawn or Vader, Zsinj was a mastermind in his own right and would notably make use of tactics where he would try to outwit superior starfighter forces, having them fly after his ships after they retreated into an asteroid belt, proceeding to blow away the asteroids with massive torrents of turbolaser fire, causing the enemy fighters to be ripped apart in the ensuing shockwave and cloud of debris. Tactic was later implemented into New Republic training sims, and it was during the same tenure while commanding the Victory Star Destroyer that he would meet his future right-hand man, a human Imperial general named Melvar.
Melvin.
Skip ahead a few, and we come to the point where the Empire had suffered its defeat at the Battle of Yavin, where the first Death Star was destroyed. Zsinj had been assigned to patrol the Quelli sector and around the planet Dathomir. During his patrol stationed over the planet, a group of Night Sister prisoners under one named Gethzarian would emerge and try to overthrow the Imperial occupation, and nearly succeed, using their force magic to trick and trap Imperial forces to serve them and kill each other. Ultimately, trying to escape off-world and take over the galaxy, Zsinj would learn of this attempt to escape using broken-down Imperial craft, and would proceed to bomb the planet from orbit, overwhelmingly stomping Gethzarian's rebellion out and locking all forces on the planet for roughly 7 years.
Ooh.
Yeah. Effectively, Palpatine ordered the planet be interdicted so that no ship would be able to go in or off the planet. And it was for his accomplishments that Palpatine also greatly recognized him and would grant Zsinj the status of Grand Moff in command of the Executor-class Super Star Destroyer, originally named Brawl, but was rechristened to Iron Fist. Following his exchange of command, the old Victory class he commanded would later be sent to serve the Chiss Admiral Thrawn in the unknown regions. Alongside his status as Grand Moff, Zsinj would also gain control of the Crimson Command Fleet, a large fleet of roughly 100 refitted Victory Class 2 Star Destroyers with a red Havad alloy hull plating, being among the 2 individuals who achieved the status of High Admiral, and would proceed to focus on taking over the Drakmarian territory, securing the Hydian Way Super Hyper Route, which was one of the 5 major hyperspace lanes of the galaxy. To that end, the Quelly Sector fleet had become the single largest navy in the Empire. Even as he gained power and prestige, Zsinj maintained a public persona that belied his genius. With his portly figure and piratical mustache, he put his enemies off guard before destroying them.
So he was a schmoozer.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. But we now...
How dare he schmooze?
How dare he? How dare he?
How dare he schmooze?
Well, we now reach the point where Zsinj has officially taken his own control of part of the Empire. Following the Empire's defeat at Endor, the Empire was fracturing in control of its territory, and primary remnants remained under that of the Imperial ruling council. But Zsinj had broken off and decided to quietly hide his descent and desertion to form his own empire. He began to gather forces from the Empire and elsewhere to fortify his position, asserting his command from the planet Sereno, former home of the Separatist leader Count Dooku. He would break out on his own to hunt the Empire and rebels alike. Zsinj, like many warlords, would face early setbacks, but it was clear that at the very least, Zsinj had made up for them, including the loss of the Crimson Command to the brothers Pterodok of the Greater Maldrude.
The Maldrude?
Yeah,
I've heard of them before.
Yes, we have, because the other High Admiral was Triton Pterodok, the older of the 2 Pterodok brothers. Triton had earned he had been the other individual to earn the High Admiral status, and before Zsinj could really make use of the Crimson Command, Triton took that whole fleet for himself and retreated to the Maldrude sector with it. So Zsinj was without the Crimson Command to back up his forces. And while this hindered him for a while, it did not stop him. Zsinj, like many warlords, used some stormtroopers, but also fielded their own specialized units. In Zinj's case, he developed the Raptor Troopers as an elite shock trooper with their own unique arsenal, including the TIE Raptors and the Incom Y4 Raptor transports.
Raptor transports, not the Raptor TIE fighters.
No, the TIE Raptors and the Incom Y4 Raptor transports were part of that arsenal. These units were known for both for covert and public actions. The Raptors defended Zinj's holdings, protected his allies, and terrified his enemies. The Raptors mixed aspects of their armor design from the Imperial Stormtrooper and that of the Emperor's Royal Guard.
Ooh.
Zsinj was also able to sway a few faces to his side, like that of the moff-turned-pirate queen Leona Tavira, the ex-inquisitor Lanu Pasik, and the HUD economist Tiubo. Others were not privy to joining the Warlord's command, like that of Sarayonka, who remained loyal to the Imperial Remnant for a time, or even that of Zell Jonas and his 112th Repulsor Lift Armored Regiment. Zsinj had also gained allies with pirates in the corporate sector, having also annexed the Tian hegemony in the wake of his building territory. He would, however, find himself sandwiched between two other warlord forces, the first being the Pterodok brothers and their Greater Maldruid forces to one side, and the other being the Ceotric hegemony under Delek Krenel and the Pentastar alignment under Grand Moff Artus Kane to the other. Which is why when you play Empire at War and you do the Thrawn's Revenge mod, you look at Zsinj's territory when you do the big Grand Galaxy maps. Zsinj has himself situated right in between two major Imperial. He's got both of the other big warlord forces on either side of him. He starts in the other of the two like really screwed up positions because he's the one sandwiched between two big hitters, and they get real annoying real fast. Because the big thing is you really have to worry more about the Pentastar than you do the Maldruid. But getting the Maldruid is really big because that means you get the Crimson Command.
True. Isn't the Maldruid the one with the weird dragon ships?
No, that is actually Zsinj's forces.
Really? Okay.
Zsinj has the Dragon Heavy Cruiser prototypes.
Yeah, the one that looks like it's a flying
It's just a fucking flying torpedo. The flying torpedo with this weird tail up, like weird scorpion tail fin.
Looks very Star Trek-y.
It's weird. It's got like weird little like red eye things on the front. I don't know why they designed that ship like that. It's weird. So despite all this, Zsinj would not falter and still upheld his position of control and power despite rivals and enemies all around him. Zsinj had built a massive shipyard over Dathomir from the monitoring station there called Rancor Base. He also established mining operations on Dathomir's fourth moon, as well as using those funds from his corporate and pirate allies to fund various projects, one of them being named Project Chubar, where he took the company known as Benring Biomedical Product and began using the ex-Imperial scientists Tuzin, Gast, and his team to create a genetic and chemical therapy to increase the intellect and human-like qualities of various non-human species, like Gamorreans, Ewoks, and Tals. One of these subjects, Gamma 9104, later named Vort Sabinring, or Piggy, as he earned the nickname later serving in the New Republic Defense Fleet as part of Wraith Squadron, would be the first of many escaped subjects. However, Gast had summarily killed himself with a small explosive device and forced Project Chubar to be moved from its base on Cephalor directly aboard Zsinj's flagship Iron Fist. Around 4 ABY, one of Zsinj's allies, Lon Benjir, acquired military assets from one of his own allies, the Daas family, and took them to attack the New Republic's hidden Haas shipyards. This attack sidetracked the New Republic's plans to attack both Zsinj and Pterodok for some time. On 5 ABY, Zsinj would face the New Republic Admiral Kalbak to repel his forces from the planet Corson. Kalbak was forced to retreat and was then sent to face the mysterious Lord Shadowspawn. In 6 ABY, New Republic Admiral Ragab would attempt to cut off some Coruscant support from the Pentastar alignment in the new territories. However, Zsinj's Raptor secured a key victory at Paquilus 3, stopping their advance. Viewing both his Imperial and New Republic foes as inferior and driven by his stubborn pride, Zsinj eventually began to feel secure enough to push out against the New Republic directly. After Isard's loss of Borleus, Zsinj sent a small force to probe the Pyrea system and would see the destruction of his freighter and the Vengeance Dare 4, as well as another transport and a squadron of TIE fighters at the hands of Rogue Squadron. Zsinj couldn't let this loss stand and set forth to hunt down and destroy the New Republic and the forces of Rogue Squadron who slighted him. Zsinj had stolen a sufficient supply of Bacta from Isard and had prepared prepared to help in a sort of demoralizing display by destroying a fake rogue pilot and broadcast the whole display to the New Republic. However, Zsinj would be supremely humiliated by the delayed relay of the broadcast, and even more infuriated, he focused harder on taking the New Republic, and the New Republic agreed Zsinj was now the primary threat to their operations, no longer pushing against Isard's offensive. This is actually where, in the book, I believe, when they take Coruscant in the X-Wing novels, I believe that's actually where, at the end of the third book, that's where Rogue Squadron effectively goes rogue, and like they full on go AWOL, and they resign their commission to the New Republic and start hunting down Isard as sort of like a private military affair.
Oh.
Yeah, because the New Republic doesn't sanction the further like pursuit after Isard. So when they go to face her at Thyfera, that's not under the New Republic's banner. That's after they've resigned their commission and go off to basically fight a war on their own.
Okay, so it's oh my god, the one senator from Corellia during the Thrawn.
Garm Bel Iblis.
Yeah, Garm Bel Iblis.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I don't need to be a senator anymore. I'm gonna go start war.
I'm gonna go beat up the Empire now. Screw these guys.
You guys suck. I'm out. Bye. Also, I hate Mon Mothma so much.
All of that happens in the backdrop while Zsinj is fighting the New Republic proper, because he's now the main threat as a warlord that the New Republic has identified. New Republic has officially classed him as the more threatening of the warlords at this point in time.
Probably because he's the only big warlord.
I mean, there's a bunch of warlords that are out there, but he's the biggest one they've identified.
Yeah, there's other warlords, but they're like, yeah, I own 2 planets.
Well, I mean, the Maldrude basically got, like, Zsinj basically sidetracked all their efforts to face the Maldrude, and I'm pretty sure they don't know what the hell is going on with the Pentastar. So, yeah. But it is, by this point, following Isard's defeat at Thyfera and the fall of Coruscant, Zsinj would see many forces from Isard's team leave for Zinj's fleet, including the Admiral Apwar Triget and his Imperial II class Star Destroyer Implacable. Zsinj also...
That's a good starship name.
Implacable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Triget is actually, when you go through the X-Wing novels, he is the first villain that Wraith Squadron goes and fights. When you start transitioning from the focus on Rogue Squadron to Wraith Squadron, in their first book of the X-Wing series, Triget is the main threat he's the primary antagonist in that story arc. Because they don't even really fight Zsinj first. They're fighting Zinj's forces by this point, but they are not officially... they are effectively working as a whole new squadron of what are effectively the rejects and near dropouts of the New Republic's forces. Because Wedge organized Wraith Squadron essentially as a second version of Rogue Squadron to act as sort of a commando pilot corps.
Okay.
And the idea was that the members he would be given would not be any of the ones of the top. They would not be any of the ones that were of the top bar. They were all the near rejects who had some like really odd or like really shady history about them. So he was effectively running his own, like, bad company group.
Nice.
Where they were all, like, on the verge of being arrested or had like a really bad reputation in the New Republic, or had some like really big mark on their career. That's definitely one of the like, it's definitely one of the more interesting ones, because while I like the Rogue Squadron story, that one was fun to see this group of like that's one of the big reasons I like the X-Wing novels, is you get to see basically the build-up of the members of Rogue Squadron over time. You get to see the build-up of Rogue Squadron, but then you also get to see Wedge basically form a whole new squadron, and you get to see how they change and all that, and the way all of them grow and the losses some of them suffer. It really, really impacts. So it's a good little read. They're definitely one of the best of the novels that I have read so far. They're on that like really big line.
I'll read those ones in.
Yeah, you'll have to take a read on those, because those are really good. Yeah. Zsinj would also go about implementing various new projects to take on the New Republic, and would also have the several Imperial Intelligence Network agents like Captain Zerel Darillion join him. Zsinj would also take over the territory of other warlords like Tyrrenold Screed and Nigel Nivers.
Nigel Nivers.
Yep.
That's a rough name to have.
Yep. So these are two that I've got to go ahead. I mentioned this to you last night before, but these are two of the ones that I'm going to bring up as the minor warlords who are not really worth bringing up in their own part. I may go back to actually cover Screed at a certain point later, because Screed actually has some weird, interesting bits to him. But for right now, we're going to simply mention him here. So Screed was among those who, like Zinj's mother and various other Imperial commanders, served initially under the Republic. And Screed was among those who actually participated in the Battle of Endor. He would later meet his end by the hands of Zsinj around 6 ABY, and weirdly enough, was actually the main antagonist in the shitty Star Wars Droids Adventures of R2-D2 and C-3PO, where he was originally introduced as a cyborg human male Imperial officer. If you look at his design in there, it's rough. It's real rough compared to some of the other like images that have popped up for him.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
But he actually has a bit more interesting going on for him. Unlike the next one, old Nigel Nivers was another minor warlord who was taken down by the members of Rogue Squadron following his extremely short tenure as leader and warlord, where they deleted his squadrons of ties, and his territory was absorbed by that of Zsinj and his followers, left to serve Supreme Commander Enix Devian. Nivers literally had a whole, like, less than a day of rule. He had less than a day as a warlord.
That's right.
And then Rogue Squadron came through and absolutely fucked up his day.
That sucks.
Yep. Zsinj would come to face threats from the New Republic like that of General Han Solo and his Solo Command Fleet, designed solely to take on the Warlord, as well as the members of Rogue Squadron and the newly formed Wraith Squadron, both under Wedge and Tilly's.
God, I love Wedge.
We are definitely going to cover Wedge before we get into, like, when we get into covering long stuff. Wedge will definitely be one of the big characters we talk about in between, like, big events of the Long War. Because we'll probably be chunking out the Long War as an actual, like, multi-part thing. Because there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah.
Considering there's, like, 20 plus books for that series. Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's like 15, 20 books in that series. So there's a lot.
There's a lot of lore for the Vong.
It's not all good lore, but it's lore. Zsinj also allowed Triget to command the Imperial intelligence agent Gara Pedithel, allowing them to destroy the members of the New Republic's Talon Squadron in the Graven system, where only the commander of the unit, Mindono, survived. Zsinj had Triget face the members of Wraith Squadron at Folor Base, and would see them taunting Zinj's forces with comical squadron names like Dinner Squadron and Silly Squadron, allowing the members...
I'm sorry.
Just broke out in laughter for a moment.
Fucking there. Silly Squadron, shut the fuck up.
Yep. This whole distraction and taunting of Zinj's forces actually would allow the majority of the New Republic's forces to escape Folor Base. So their little ploy actually worked in their favor.
Imagine getting fooled by Silly Squadron.
Imagine.
God, Zsinj is such a jobber.
Later on, the members of Wraith Squadron... Well, this one isn't even Zsinj, it's Triget.
Triget? Oh my god.
Later on, the members of Wraith Squadron go on to claim the modified Corellian corvette Nightcaller, where Piggy or Vortsaben Ring would kill the ship's captain Zarel Darillion by impersonating Darillion. The Wraith Squadron member Garrick Face Loran was able to fool both Triget and Zsinj long enough to destroy the Implacable in the Battle of Essien. The race would also learn of the reemergence of the 181st and the missing Sunterfell, which had in fact been staged by using droid fighters with massive blasting charges loaded in to try and kill the Wraiths in a paid attempt by the actor and rival of Face Loran named Tetran Cowell.
Simon Cowell.
I wonder if that's who it's supposed to be based off of.
Oh my god, please tell me he has the same, like, attitude.
I mean, as minimally as I saw him actually perform, probably.
Oh, it's so good.
Like, you only actually get a few minutes of him actually, like... You only get a few, like, lines of him genuinely talking. Like, it's not a whole lot, because it's literally just before Wedge kills him.
Yeah.
Because it's right before that we get the first scene we get the actual first scene of the TIE Raptors, which Wedge single-handedly has to escape and blows up a few of them.
Dope. You know what I realized? It would be great if there was a villain that just right at the very end, like right before like the hero's like, yeah, you can't be here, I gotta get rid of you. It's just fucking Gordon Ramsay being like, you donkey, you call that killing somebody? This is how you do it, and he offs himself. And they're just like, what the fuck happened?
That sounds too much like something somebody would do, unfortunately.
Dude, that's like something I would do.
Yeah, during their whole escapade, the race would also collect significant amounts of data on Zinj's network and later took down another massive sleeper agent scheme, this time where Zsinj tried putting non-humans who served around the New Republic in brainwashed states to try and commit massive amounts of damage to New Republic officials and kill many more. Zsinj would try to gain another massive asset to his arsenal amidst this, where they learned of the Imperials at Kuat Drive Yards working on a new Executor-class Star Destroyer named Razor's Kiss. Zsinj sent pirates to infiltrate and take the ship back, but were foiled by the members of Wraith Squadron, Peggy and Shalad Nelprin. Zsinj also tried to reacquire the asset known as Garapedithel, who was in deep cover as Lara Notzel, a farmer from Aldavie, who the New Republic saved from Triget's ship, having disguised herself, claiming she was Triget's mistress. She ran into the real Lara's brother, Tavin Notzel, and the Imperial captain, Haldren Rossick, who she planned to meet and explain her situation, but due to Tavin and Rossik's forceful attempt to drag her back, both were killed by her New Republic partner, Min Donos. Zsinj, unaware of this loss and having waited to see what Pedithel would try next and how she would make her way back to him, he waited but would be undermined as his projects involving the Sleeper agents and the acquisition of Razor's Kiss were foiled. On top of that, the plans to reignite Project Chubar were foiled during a fight with Solo, and where Garrett Pedithel had departed Zsinj's services and went into hiding. Zsinj's final downfall was still on the horizon, however, and it was probably the most unfortunate way he could have gone out.
That's right.
Zsinj suffered a crushing defeat by the hands of Solo and the Mon Ramonda, having lost much, then used the Second Death, a reconstructed fake of the Iron Fist accompanied by the Nightcloak satellite array to mask the escape of Iron Fist proper and deal with the New Republic forces. Zsinj had begun retreating to Dathomir, which was soon to be in the midst of a crossfire of adventures. The Hapes Consortium had begun building relations with the New Republic, and with Solo's challenge against the Prince of Hapes, Prince Isolder, had arrived to claim and offer Princess Leia Organa a place for the people of Alderaan to leave to. While Han had been assuming hope was not lost when he claimed the deed to Dathomir in a Sabacc game with the Drakmaran warlord Omog, he had ultimately taken a very extreme route, and then proceeded to kidnap Leia and took her aboard the Millennium Falcon to the planet of Dathomir to try and court her. Much to his dismay, Zsinj had a massive shipyard over the planet and would find himself, Leia, Chewbacca, and 3PO crashing to the planet within the remnants of an Imperial KDY strike cruiser, falling to the planet and managing to break from within the cruiser's confines, but now trapped in the wilds of the planet's forests. Having to dodge Rancors, Imperials, and of course, the Witches, the planet's mystical tribal women who dotted the landscape and ruled over this planet against Zsinj and the Empire. Shortly after Solo's crashing descent to the planet, Luke Skywalker arrived with Prince Isolder aboard Isolder's ship, the Hapen Battle Dragon Song of War, and would witness the crashing cruiser and pursue them, but being chased and crashing their fighters on the planet below. Zsinj sent patrols after the group and would later deploy General Melvar, along with calling on the aid of the Night Sister rogue Geth Zarian to hunt down Solo and Skywalker's crew. After many failed attempts, the Night Sister would ultimately betray Zsinj, killing his right-hand man, General Melvar, and would meet her own end at the hands of Luke Skywalker and Tenennial Joe, a former member of Geth Zarian's clan, and her niece, where the Night Sister and Melvar had Zsinj attempted to deploy the Nightcloak to trap the intruders on the planet, but with Han's Falcon and the aid of the Hapen battle fleet that arrived moments before, the Warlord would meet his end as Han blew apart the primary control tower of the Iron Fist, killed the Warlord with a concussion missile blast that sent the Iron Fist drifting into a drifting descent to the planet's oceans and the Nightcloak array, destroying both weapons of terror in one fell swoop.
Hell yeah.
So while it wasn't a fucking fighter crash into the bridge of the Superstar Destroyer, it was still taking a full fucking concussion missile right there into the freaking Superstar Destroyer.
It sure was.
Yeah, that's Zsinj right there.
What a loser.
Yeah.
That sucks.
What's bad is, and I feel like this is one of the few critiques I have about the Courtship of Princess Leia book, which is, like I said before, where Zsinj meets his end.
Yeah.
The problem I have with it so far is Zsinj has only ever been mentioned. There has not been a single visual showing of Zsinj yet. I'm like 19 chapters into this book, and there's been no actual showing of Zsinj or the Iron Fist.
Oh.
Neither have appeared yet, and I'm almost done with this book.
That sucks.
Which is wild, considering like the last 2 books of the Race Squadron part of the X-Wing novels had him basically in every 3rd chapter. He was in like every 3rd chapter. He was the other point of view when you weren't seeing like the New Republic forces. And that's kind of where I actually grew to like Zsinj a little bit, because he was actually one of the more like effective officers. Like, I know I didn't really describe him to any real justice, but the way he's portrayed in the X-Wing series actually makes him seem more interesting than the way I described him here.
Okay.
Because honestly, the way he went out was very much, this man meant the jobber ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucked.
Which is unfortunate considering all the shit this man did prior. Like, this man had a lot going for him, and then he just gets hit with the jobber end.
Bad.
It's rough. It's rough. But
he's the T3 ending, dude.
No, don't. Why? No, T3 ain't a jobber. You know that. You know T3 ain't a fucking jobber.
Fight, yes, he was.
Look, the fact he was even in that fight doesn't make sense to me. Why T3 was even in that fight makes 0 sense to me.
No. He was in that fight so T3 could die. That was the point. The author was like, yo, awful. T3, he's got to go. But why? He's my boy.
So does Mitra Surik. Stab.
Yeah, that was fucking... Man, Mitra deserved better, dude. At that point, I didn't even care what the fuck happened to Revan. Like, Mitra deserved better.
Oh. Before I go and give my final thoughts on all of this, I'm gonna go ahead and announce what my little idea has been that I came up with like 2 or 3 days ago. So I had started thinking about this idea, I think it was like Tuesday night, Tuesday or Wednesday, one of those days. And I thought about it more, and I sent the message to you, I think, Thursday. And the idea I had was, I want to start on the last Saturday of each month.
Okay.
Last Saturday of each month, I want us to spend one of those to actually go over and talk about and review some of the Star Wars books.
Okay.
So every month,
more Star Wars books.
So every month we'll do a Star Wars book and make sure we read over it, and we'll kind of go through at the end of that month and talk about everything we kind of feel on it.
Gotcha. So Star Wars Book Club.
Star Wars Book Club.
All right. Which is good, because once a month is when I get my my credit in Audible.
It works out. It works out. Yeah, but this gives us a chance to actually talk more in depth about the events of those stories, rather than just going through like a whole synopsis/lore review of like the individual parts of it. Mm-hmm. You had to actually talk about the events of those stories, and I think that's going to be interesting, especially with Audible, like adding the unabridged versions of all of the old Star Wars books.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be something interesting to do, and to go ahead and kick off our little run, the first book that we will be reading on first book we'll be doing the review over on the 28th of December will be... Let me pull out my Audible, because I had this one figured out already. Pull it up. Come on. Phone is slow.
It happens.
It do, in fact, be like that sometimes. I'm going to my library. Our first book in this little lineup will be... We'll be going over the... What is it?
I believe in you.
Here it is. We will be doing the first of the new Thrawn trilogy that was done for the canon story for Thrawn. We'll be doing the canon Thrawn trilogy.
Okay.
The first book being just named Thrawn. So we will be reading that as our first book.
Thrawn, Timothy Zahn. Oh.
Yep. That'll be the first book we will be reading. So hope you... So by the 28th, we will be doing a big review and discussion over the book and the events inside. So hope you all will be enjoying that. And at the end of that, session, we will go in and talk about what the next one will be. We'll be running through the whole Thrawn trilogy. We're running through the whole new Thrawn trilogy. So each one we'll be doing the first of those, and then we'll figure out what the next one will be after. Because there's a bunch of ones I've already got on Audible, and there's ones I want to pick up. So we'll be kind of running through parts of them here and there.
Fair enough.
So, 28th, Thrawn, and now I can kind of dip in on the final thoughts now that I've got that little announcement out of the way.
Hooray.
So, final thoughts. Zsinj was a man who, by all accounts, made the moves Tarkin would have, but smarter.
Yup.
He had a true weakness in his own pride, but this wouldn't see him as any worse than even those of other warlords. He was surely someone even the Empire saw needed to be dealt with when the Imperial Admiral Terran Rogres aided Face Loran with trying to disable Iron Fist with the interdictor cruiser Stellar Web. The death of the Warlord signaled his enemies to push into the territory and saw them fighting wildly against the New Republic over this territory, as well as that of the Hapes, following their integration of Dathomir as their 64th world to the Hapes territory. Zsinj was able to match wits with that of the Corellian war hero of the New Republic and Rebellion Han Solo, and caused the destruction of several New Republic forces and forces with Republic officers and forces with his destructive projects and devastating tactics. But while his rule has come to a close, the next warlord comes forth as the true heir to the Empire.
Oh?
For now, we will be covering the Chiss Imperial Grand Admiral, Mithron Yerodo, better known as Thrawn.
Yeah! Oh, fuck, dude. I'm so down.
Because I figure we go ahead and knock these out chronologically. Since Thrawn will be our topic we'll be doing the canon book for Thrawn's trilogy. I figured tapping into Thrawn now before we go into Dark Empire next makes the most sense, because chronologically that would be how it works. Yeah. Thrawn is the next warlord that pops up following Zsinj's downfall. So him coming up next would be the most ideal to talk about. So next week we'll finally be talking about Thrawn.
Hell yeah.
I will preface this first and foremost. We will be strictly talking about the Legends version of Thrawn, because the canon version will actually be getting covered in our little book club thing. So we won't have to worry about covering him over in detail through that till after we get all of that done. So the canon version of Thrawn will stay more or less in the box until we get more or less when more stuff happens in canon to finish up his story. Because that's pretty much all I'm going to wait on.
Thrawn.
That's all I'm pretty much waiting on is for when they wrap up Thrawn's story in canon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're going to finally talk about Thrawn, which means we actually will be talking about Thrawn before we talk about Revan. It's wild.
Which is fine. Thrawn's cooler.
Thrawn is cooler.
Revan has a better story, but Thrawn is definitely cooler.
Thrawn overall is just cool. He's got a cool story, and he's just a badass overall. And on to the fact that he's not a Force-sensitive character, bonus points.
Yep. He's just a dude doing his job.
He's just a really fucking smart dude.
He does a really good job.
So next week we got Thrawn next week, and starting on the 28th of December, we will be doing our book club. So go through, pick up the audiobook on Audible. Mark Thompson actually is the one who narrates those. So the guy who did the Heir to the Empire and the Revan books, the guy who narrated those on Audible, he does the other Thrawn trilogy too.
Nice.
I also think that they got the canon voice for Thrawn to actually voice his character in this one. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure they got Lars Mikkelsen to actually go and voice Thrawn for the audiobooks. For the new audiobooks.
Okay.
They got the guy doing Thrawn in Star Wars canon for like Rebels and the Ahsoka series. I think they actually got him doing that in the audiobook.
The best part is he's a voice actor.
Well, he's not just a voice actor now, he's an actor too.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
But he started as a voice actor first, so you know he's going to narrate well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he does that very well.
He knows how to act without actually, physically acting.
See, the big thing
acting
I like
with just a voice. Oh, it's so fucking cool.
The big thing I like about him, and we'll get to talk about it more when we're actually going over it, is the sort of like inner thought points when you're hearing from Thrawn's perspective in the book are exclusively voiced in Thrawn's tone. Like he's voicing all of his like inner monologue and the dialogue at the beginning of each chapter.
Dope.
There's like a little excerpt thing when each chapter starts, and I think that's really cool. Like him narrating some like very like deep thing, or talking about something big that's something like big from his perspective. It's a very interesting one, and it actually brings up some characters who are tied to Thrawn in Legends. So you get to see a few of those, and the way Thrawn is brought in is really cool and interesting. So it's very much something we'll get to talk about in the book, and we'll be talking about his Legends version for next week. So that'll be next week, and with only 2 weeks until our prophesized special comparison review between Dark Empire and the sequels.
Ooh.
That'll be our we'll call it our Christmas thing. It'll be like our Christmas event thing. Cause
you mean it'll be our Life Day special?
I mean, we're not gonna cover Life Day, but sure.
You say we're not going to cover Life Day.
We're not.
I'm going to bring it up.
We're not. You can bring it up all you want, but we're not covering it.
I'm going to bring up Life Day, dude.
Not yet.
It's going to happen.
It's not happening yet.
The Star Wars special, dude. It's happening.
Not happening. But yeah, no. After all that, so final thoughts for you on Zsinj overall.
I feel like they did him dirty. Like he could have been way cooler, but then they're like, we got to job him out.
Yeah. Which, like I said, the Courtship of Princess Leia doesn't even have him appear at all throughout any of the fucking novel so far. Like I said, I'm like 19 chapters in, and there's only like 3 hours left in this book. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't show up at some point before the end, I don't know. They have a very interesting time about that.
That's for you, buddy.
You bastard.
That's strictly for you, buddy. Enjoy.
You're gonna make me start agreeing with the Empire on how
the Empire was right. The Wookiees deserved it. Oh no!
It's all Life Day's fault.
Oh fuck, that's funny.
Yeah, this one, I know this one was actually kind of a shorter piece compared to our normal, but
yes.
Yeah, there unfortunately was not as much of Zsinj as I could have offered. Like I said, we'll probably get to talk more about him whenever we actually start talking and going over like the X-Wing novels in our book club.
Yeah.
So I do want to go over those at some point, but whenever we get to those, we'll probably cover those. We'll probably cover those when Audible has the full set of those, because right now they only have like the first 7 and then the 10th book. They don't have 8 and 9.
Weird.
Yeah, was because 8 and 9 aren't unabridged. All the other ones are.
That makes sense.
Because originally they only had Back to War and Wedge's Gambit originally as like abridged versions. And I have learned that the sheer audacity to have an abridged audiobook should not exist. You cut down like 60% of the meat and potatoes off that fucking book when you do that.
Yeah. That's why the unabridged versions are the best.
That's why they're the best.
I mean, hell, take a look at director's cut unabridged.
It's also really nice that Mark Thompson is also the one who narrates those. So
yeah,
that man does an amazing work as a audiobook narrator. Like, for all the Star Wars stuff, that man does absolute fucking God's work. But I do believe that that's going to be where we're going to end it. Actually, we'll make the announcement here foremost that next week I'm actually going to try to get back into proper streaming of games starting this coming up week. Also, we'll be looking at actually getting back into recording, which means Lord help me, I'm gonna have to work on editing again.
Yeah,
because don't have anybody who I know who'd be willing to do the editing for me.
I'm willing but unable.
Willing but unable.
Willing but unable.
Why is that?
I don't know the first fucking thing about editing, nor do I have any kind of editing software, nor do I have time to edit.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have none of the qualifications or ability to do it.
Oh, wow. Guess what? Neither do I. I have, like, the very barest minimum because I did it for a while, a few years ago. But
I did for school, a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I've had to do it myself, so it's fine. But we'll figure it out. I'll be working on that here and there. So we'll
burn that bridge when you cross it.
Burn that bridge when we cross it. And what I will say that getting back into streaming will probably be a lot of like casual games. I'm not going to jump back in on any playthroughs getting back into it because holiday season's coming up and that's going to be a fucking mess. And on top of the fact that I'm going to be like working on, I think you're doing some of starting up some new playthroughs as recordings will probably be the way to go. And I think I'm going to do a new Empire at War playthrough as like a recorded playthrough. Weirdly enough, I'm actually thinking about doing a Zsinj run. Actually, I'm thinking about doing one for Zsinj on Thrawn's Revenge.
I mean,
Just because of like
we just talked about
it.
Maybe you can save him from being jobbed out.
I mean, that's the hope. The hope is I don't end up getting Iron Fist destroyed.
Yep. So you'll get a concussion missile straight through the bridge. It'll be fine. By a single fighter.
By the fucking Millennium Falcon.
Yep. Shoot. Haha, bye loser. What? Nope.
What's bad is that's more or less what Han says to him, because there's the exact line that Han tells him when he fires the missile is, "Kiss my Wookiee." Like that's the line they use.
Kiss my Wookiee?
Yeah.
Han, come on, man. You can do better one-liners than that. That sucks.
Your reaction is exactly what the fucking Hapen Prince says to him after that. Did you just tell the most...
The word ass exists. You can use it.
You just tell him... Did you just tell the most powerful warlord in the galaxy to kiss your Wookiee? That was literally what fucking Ice Soldier tells him. It's that literally sucks. The line. It's bad. It's real bad. I will... It's... Courtship of Princess Leia, I know some people recommend it, but so far it's only been interesting because of the weird, like, plot twist turns.
Yeah.
I've been interested in some of that, and honestly, I just want to see, like, the end of Zsinj is the only other reason at this point I'm sticking with it. The plot twist turns and the fact I'm waiting for Zsinj to die is pretty much the only reasons that I'm sticking with it, because they don't close the story out with Rogue Squadron. And as a fact I learned, another weird little minor fact to close it off, Zsinj actually does not have his story end. Zinj's story ended before they gave him more material, because the X-Wing novels came out after the Courtship of Princess Leia.
Oh. And
the guy who writes the guy who actually does the Race Squadron ones is not the guy who does the ones for the Rogue Squadron side. So even though Race Squadron follows right after the battle with Isard, it does not cover does not follow Rogue Squadron anymore. It follows Wedge and one of the rogues, Wes Jansen, going around and leading the new Wraith Squadron, which, as I said, is supposed to be sort of like supposed to be like a second Rogue Squadron where it's like a commando fighter team. But the guy who writes the actual X-Wing novels, which I'm pretty sure is the one who's going to do the rest of Isard's story, the two books that are still missing, I'm pretty sure are his, is Michael A. Stackpole, I think, is the guy who does that one as the author for those books. And then the Rogue Squadron book, the Wraith Squadron story, is Aaron Alston, who actually does a few Clone Wars books that are really good. There's a few books that are set in the Clone Wars that are pretty decent. Yoda Dark Rendezvous, I think, is one of them. I think he also does the Vader Rise of the Sith book. I think he does that book as well, which is supposed to be like Vader's rise to power following Episode 3. Okay. So he does a few other books that are really good. There's a bunch of really good authors out there, but I'm probably that'll be where we ended off tonight. Today. That weird little bit of trivia at the end.
Oh.
So next week is Thrawn.
Yeah.
And starting up next week as well, we will be going through and doing we'll be getting a sort of streaming schedule back up and running again. We'll probably be doing them Wednesdays, and we'll probably be doing them Wednesdays and Fridays for the time being. We'll probably be doing them Wednesday evenings and Friday mornings. Will probably be when I do them. So stay tuned for those. Recordings will kind of come out whenever. I will not have a set schedule on recordings. Those will just come out whenever. For the time being, that's going to be how it is. Don't know when my first one's going to come out, but probably going to be either a Empire at War or a Total War playthrough, because Total War's actually got its next DLC coming out, and I'm excited for that. I'll probably be doing a playthrough to kind of get myself back in gear for that, because I'm going to probably do the new Corn Lord that's coming up.
Corn Lord?
Yeah, there's a new Corn Legendary Lord that's coming up for Total War Warhammer.
The Lord of the Corn?
It is specifically the Skull Taker, which is a famous bloodletter, apparently. He's the one that I'm really interested to play, so I'm probably gonna do a playthrough with him. I'll probably do a playthrough with him either on stream or recorded, but we'll probably be doing some of that on the side. But I hope you all enjoy. Hope you all enjoy your weekend and had a good holiday, and we will see you next week for Thrawn. So make sure you go about doing all the things on all the social medias and the YouTubes, and we will see you all next time. This has been the Freelancer signing off. Until then, goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye!